This is a WVVA weather special report.
Good afternoon, everyone. Chief Meteorologist Catherine Thompson here. We now have a tornado warning out for portions of Fayette County. That means we're going to be on air until it expires. I was worried about the storm. That's why we just cut into programming a little bit ago, because it was showing some signs of broad rotation, and it does look like that has strengthened a bit. You can actually see this red line here. This is where the tornado warned part of the storm is, and right where you see that arrow going around, that's pretty much where our rotation is. We've got some very heavy rain. I've also seen some hail signatures on here, at least quarter-sized hail, and we've just got general gusty winds in this storm. In general, 60+ miles an hour has been showing up. Let's go ahead and just kind of track where the system is going. Again, this tornado warning out right now until 5 o'clock. So we're going to track this thing right now for the next half hour roughly and see where this thing goes. Now, once this storm, the worst part of it, the tornado warned storm, is to move out of Fayette into neighboring counties just outside of the viewing area, then we would go off. But it's very close to portions of Greenbrier as well, western Greenbrier. And so I'm going to continue to track this as it slowly heads to the northeast. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is a tornado warning out for portions of Fayette County. This is including northeastern Fayette County in the WVVA viewing area. At 4:30 p.m., a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near Anstead. That's when we just cut into programming a little bit ago, was when it was right over Anstead. It has strengthened since that time. It's moving east still at around 45 miles an hour. So let's go ahead and track this portion of the storm out. I'll bring out my velocity tool so we can see where the worst winds, the rotation is in this storm. It's right in this general area is where we're looking at some of that rotation. You can actually see it pretty clearly here now. This is what we're looking at right here. This is the area of rotation that we're concerned about. This is why the National Weather Service has issued this warning. And this pocket of rotating winds right here and strong winds is continuing to head roughly to the east northeast. So Nolan right now getting the worst of some of that rotation. Runa starting to hone in on some of the strongest winds there as well. If you are in Snow Hill over here, sorry, Hominy Falls, Carl, I would get to a safe spot immediately. This is not a drill. This is a portion of the storm that's rotating. Now, there is not reports right now of a tornado actually on the ground, but that could change at any time. A lot of times you can't tell by looking at the radar if a tornado is actually touched down or if there's just rotation in the storm. That's really hard to see. That's why anytime you see this, the National Weather Service is going to issue that warning. So again, if you are in northwestern Fayette County or northeastern Fayette County too, you need to be paying attention. This storm is very, very strong. It's got some nasty winds in here. These bright pinks here are very, very strong wind gusts, as well as this little white yellow color there. That concerns me a lot. We can actually get a little bit of an estimate on some of these speeds. I'm going to drop this warning box out, and this will allow me to kind of look at these winds and see how bad these are right in this area here between Divide and Russellsville. I'm getting 98 mile an hour wind gust, guys, 98 mile an hour wind gusts where you see this particular little white or gold flash in this area right here. I'm gonna see if I can draw that or circle it for you. Right here. And that's not even the rotating part of the storm, which is back this way. So this entire storm itself in this portion of Fayette County is very nasty. Even in the rotating part of the storm, the winds could be weaker than some of these straight line winds we're seeing elsewhere. So everyone in the path of this particular cell needs to get to a safe spot. Low floors, basements, closets, bathrooms, those are going to be your #1 spots. I was tracking this storm on the radar as it moved into Fayette County earlier, and you can see this purple here. That is hail signatures that I've been tracking. So this thing has been dropping some pretty large hail from the time it was from Powellton, moving through Fayetteville, and now just starting to push out of the area. Let's bring this warning box back up again. If you're just tuning in, this tornado warning is out for portions of Fayette County. This is including northeastern Fayette in particular. We've seen hail. We've seen 60, 70 plus mile an hour winds. Just was looking at the radar and was able to see some 90 plus mile an hour wind gusts within this particular cell. And we've also got some rotation. That's why the National Weather Service has issued this tornado warning. A tornado could be possible with this type of storm. This doesn't mean there's one on the ground already, but it could drop at any time. And you have to get to your safe spot if you are in the path. If you're in Hominy Falls, I know that's just outside of our area, but if you're getting our signal at all, if you know anyone around up Route 20, out past, north of Quinwood, going out of the area, warn them, because this storm is nasty. It's just now, the worst part of this is right on the Fayette County line here and into Nicholas County, neighboring Nicholas County. So if you've got any neighbors next door, please warn them. This thing is nasty. The worst part of this storm, the worst rotation, is right on the Fayette County, Nicholas County line, up 41, right between Nolan and Poole, pretty much. And that is what we are tracking. Again, this is a tornado warning. Portions of northeastern Fayette County still under this tornado warning right now. This warning going on until 5 o'clock. Now, if we zoom out, just to give you an idea of what the rest of the area is seeing, not much at this time. A lot of the major energy today has been along and north of I-64. Poor Fayette County has been taking a beating all day. We've got over 16,000 people in the dark already in this area. So a lot of this is not even being received. And it's just, if you know anyone and you're getting our signal, you know people in Fayette without power and they are without warning, please give them a heads up, because this is a very nasty storm still on the corner of northeastern Fayette. And you can see where those kind of pinks show up every once in a while within this signature on the radar right in this area. That's where I've seen some really large hail coming out just within the past few minutes too, just around Nolan and north. At least those signatures are showing up. Again, if you're just tuning in, get to your safe spot. If you're in northeastern Fayette County, or if you know anyone in neighboring Nicholas County, this is a bad storm. This is a severe storm. It is a tornado warned storm. It has rotation within it. Also, I've clocked 90 plus mile an hour winds within this particular cell. The storm continues to move to the north and east into neighboring Nicholas County. Let's bring up the winds and see where some of this rotation is maybe still hanging on, what they're looking at. This is where the rotation is pretty nasty right here. And you can see this is not, these bright colors like this, I do not like to see these bright colors because this represents very high wind speeds, 70 plus in a lot of these areas here. And this entire area is the rotation. It's pretty broad, which is good. It could be tighter. That would concern me more if it was tighter. But it's still enough to cause for concern because it could rapidly intensify at any point. That's why when you see anything like this on the radar, any type of rotation like that, the National Weather Service is going to say, hey, get to your safe spot. Better safe than sorry in any situation. So your safe spots, again, are going to be the lowest floors. They're going to be your interior rooms, away from the windows. That's the biggest thing to remember. Closets, basements, bathrooms, as we always talk about. I know we sound like broken records sometimes, but there's a reason we constantly remind people, because this can be life-threatening. This is not a joke. This can be life-threatening. And this is the kind of storm that could really be life-threatening, especially because Fayette County earlier already got hit by some nasty storms. So there's people that are without power, even if they weren't impacted directly. The power outages span across the whole county, and it's just a mess right now up in that general area. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're tracking a very strong storm. This is a severe storm. It has shown signs of rotation. It is a tornado-warned storm. Let's zoom in. We're going to see what the National Weather Service has to say most recently here. Right now, we've still got this warning going out until 5 o'clock. Remains in effect for southeastern Nicholas and east central Fayette. So I'm going to turn it back onto the radar so we can see the actual storm itself a little better. Looks like I got moved over. Let's move back over. Here we go. I'm going to turn the warning back on so I can track that warning box. And I've got these little trackers on the radar that show me when they're seeing signs of rotation. It's got a setting on there, so that's what you're seeing there. I can actually turn those off too so you can see a little bit of a clearer picture. Very, very intense rain falling in this storm too. This is again a tornado-warned storm, but it's got quarter-sized hail or larger. I've seen 70+ mile-an-hour winds already, and if we're looking at some of these rainfall rates coming out of this thing, they are also going to be rather impressive. Let me look here, and I can show you one of these rainfall rates. See how hard this rain is falling between Bruce and Nutterville, coming down over 7.5 inches an hour. That is a deluge. So depending on how much rain this thing drops in the next few minutes here, we could see some isolated flooding issues also arise, because again, north of I-64 has been that hot spot today. So again, if you are in Fayette County in particular, Greenbrier too, heads up, because this storm is heading to the northeast, but it could still clip a little bit of western Greenbrier here. It looks like those mountains are going to steer it a little bit further to the northeast. Those high mountains here, you know, where Quinwood is and such, but some of that could make it over. So I'm watching that very, very closely. And we can get the general motion of this storm too, kind of put it in motion here. Let's get our satellite and radar going so we can see this thing moving. Get a better idea of this direction here. Let's zoom in. Here we go. Here's the cell we're watching right here. And our radar is a little bit delayed, so the storm is going to be slightly ahead of where you see it on the radar. That's just point blank how technology is. We're not that good. We can't see exactly time. That's impossible, but we can get pretty close. We've still got some rotation showing up in here. And again, right now that rotation is just getting by Nutterville, really in between Snow Hill and Burdett, and that's rough. That's a large tract of land I put there, but just to give you that rough estimate there, that is the rotating part of the storm right here. Wrong button. Right here. And that's what the National Weather Service is really, really worried about, and that's when they issue tornado warnings, is when that happens. Again, if you're just tuning in, tornado warning still active right now until 5 o'clock for portions of south central Fayette, northeastern Fayette, neighboring Nicholas County. I'm watching this storm to affect some of western Greenbrier County as well. We've got some high winds just on this line of western Greenbrier and Nicholas. So if you're in between Burdett, Nutterville, Snow Hill area, in that general area, there are some nasty gusts in here right now. Let's zoom back out and look at the radar. Again, if you're just tuning in, tornado warning still in effect for Fayette, or portions of Fayette, I should say, not all of Fayette County. As you can see, most of Fayette County is not in this storm. It is hanging on to the fringes of our area right now. But it's still right on the Greenbrier County, Nicholas County line, more so at this point. If you're in Fayette, most of this thing is now by you. Russellville here, right on the line, still getting some nasty wind and rain. But most of this storm, this really nasty cell, has moved off into neighboring Nicholas County. Now, I'm still going to stay on air right now until they drop that portion from our area. And I'm still watching. Some of this storm is definitely bleeding into Greenbrier County now. So we're going to watch that very closely. There is some broad rotation. I've also noticed some very strong winds, very heavy rain. We've got quarter-sized hail in this storm. If you know anyone, again, in Nicholas County, please let them know that this storm is a bad one. And right now, it's in between Snow Hill and Hominy Falls. The worst of it's still heading northeast, the worst of it will cross Route 20 here within the next 15, 20 minutes. Tornado warning still out for portions of Fayette, but it looks like most of that is starting to move out of the area now, which is good for us, good for our area. But you can see where the rotation is. It's right in here. Now they have issued a severe thunderstorm warning for Greenbrier County. So I'm going to continue to watch this storm. If that tornado warning is to bleed over into Greenbrier, we're probably just going to stay on air up until the 5, and we'll stay through the 5. Again, most of the area is quiet right now. We are seeing a very nasty storm right now that's getting ready to head into western Greenbrier here pretty soon. The worst of the rotation, it looks like it's heading more easterly instead of northeasterly now. So western Greenbrier is going to get some of this storm. I'm actually going to walk in front of the wall for a second. I've just been kind of controlling the radar. We're a small weather team, so a lot of times it's a one-man show. Tim, he did an excellent job earlier today tracking those storms that came by late this morning. But again, if you're just tuning in, portions of Fayette County still under a tornado warning, but that's kind of ending for you guys. It's western Greenbrier County that I'm worried about now. This tornado warning is right up against Greenbrier County in neighboring Nicholas County. This is the area of rotation just north of Quinwood, just north of the Greenbrier County line. That's where the storm is rotating. This is where some of the worst winds are too. When you got these light pinks in here, that is not good. That could be 70+ mile-an-hour winds in there. So even if we didn't see a tornado come out, there are some nasty winds in this in general. And it is again bearing down on the western Greenbrier County line. It continues to head to the east. So we're going to continue to track this system as it is still a tornado warned storm. I don't know if they're going to carry that tornado warning all the way into Greenbrier County yet. We will see if they extend that. It depends on if this rotation can hold together. The good news is we've got that good mountain range here, y'all. We all know this. It can help break apart this thing as it tries to come up, but we're going to keep a very close eye on this. I'm going to go switch my buttons, turn over the radar to a different mode, and I'll get back on there and point out some other things on the regular radar here. You might have heard me, I'm running into stuff in the studio. Okay, here we are zoomed in on the storm yet again. I will say it doesn't look quite as organized as it was before. It was a very tight cell earlier, but it has become a little bit more spread out. You can see how it's kind of spreading out and butting up against those mountains of western Greenbrier County. There is still some hail signatures in here too that I'm worried about though. Again, here's the actual warning box, still including portions of Fayette, even though the worst of that storm is past Fayette now. It's in Nicholas County, but it's still heading to the northeast. It's still going to impact portions of western Greenbrier, but I think those mountains are really helping us out. So we're going to continue to watch this thing closely and keep our fingers crossed. Right now, this tornado warning is still out for the next 9 minutes. So we're going to continue to track this thing. Yeah, if you're right on that Greenbrier County line, if you're in Quinwood, I would get to your safe spot just in case. You're close enough to some of these winds that I wouldn't mess around with that. Look at these winds right up on the line here. So next door, Carl, right from Route 20, from Quinwood up through Carl. You cross that line and you're going to run into some nasty winds, some gusts that are 50, 60+ in some of these spots. The rotation is definitely broadening out, which is nice. Okay, it seems like they have dropped this is a unique situation. I'm actually not sure where we want to go from here. I actually might want to have our news director or someone come down. We are close to showtime and advise me, but we do have a tornado warning still out for portions of Nicholas County. This thing is right next door to Greenbrier. They've still got most of Greenbrier under the severe warning. They do not have the tornado warned part. They don't have the tornado warning out for Greenbrier, but that tornado warned portion of the storm right in here is very close. So I'm going to get a second opinion to see if we want to stay on, because of course you guys know whether we're on air or not in the next few minutes before showtime, I'm not leaving the radar. We're staying on? Okay, good. All right, we are staying on, which I think is a good decision because it's so close to Greenbrier. We've got some viewers up here that are looking at this thing. And these winds right here north of Quinwood are some of these winds are starting to make their way across the line into Greenbrier County now, down Route 20. Let's see if we can get a little bit more of an estimate. I got to take that warning box down first, and then I've got to reselect that. You would think I knew all this by now. That's not too bad. The worst there is now 50 mile an hour, but this is where the winds have just moved, 70. It's where you see, and this is in western Greenbrier now, some of these really high peaks up here now are really getting hit by some of this really nasty winds. And these are where you have your 70, 80 mile per hour gusts in here. And so we've got to just really keep an eye on that. Let's see what we've got going on. Okay. I was just getting some direction from our team up in the booth. And they were telling me we are going to stay on air with this warning as long as it's just too close to home. It's right here on the Greenbrier County line. It's just protocol. And we're going to stay up until showtime. Again, this tornado warning out. Let's get a update on that. Still out until 5 o'clock, technically for southeastern Nicholas. Just north of Quinwood, though, the worst winds just north and east of Quinwood. If you're in that far portion of western Greenbrier County along these ridge lines, you are getting some of these winds still, and they're pretty nasty. Let's look at the storm direction and get a better idea of how this is going to play out. The mountains are really helping to hold most of this back to the east, and that is what we like to see. But again, if you know anyone in the path of this particular storm, this is just a nasty one. And you can see all of these bubbles I just put up, those are storm reports from the entire day. This is what we had earlier today. All of these are wind damage reports. So this has just been a very active day, especially along the north of I-64 and the Ohio Valley in general. We're going to zoom back in on that rotation part of the storm. Still some of those winds spilling back into western Greenbrier County between Quinwood and Lisle at the moment. And some of these may make it down some of these mountains here. So if you are in the path, Cobb, you know, just heads up. Just keep an eye on the radar if you're out and about right now. The severe thunderstorm warning, okay, that's out all the way until 5:45 for most of Greenbrier County now, northwestern Greenbrier County in particular. We're still expecting, as that storm continues to kind of push over the mountains, we still could see 60 mile per hour winds hold together from this particular cell, and that's why they've issued that severe thunderstorm warning. That includes Bingham and Jean. Of course, Quinwood, which is very close to the center of the worst of it. Cobb, like I said, is starting to get closer. Duo, Cobb, now in the path of So if you've got a safe place to be in, please be in it. Because these are nasty, nasty winds, 70 plus in some of these white, tan, yellow colors you're seeing there. We don't like to see that. Again, if you're just tuning in, we have been tracking a very strong severe thunderstorm. It started in Fayette. It has now moved mostly into Nicholas County, but it is now still affecting portions of western Greenbrier, especially the higher elevations and where we've got this very intense wind. We've also got a bit of, still a bit of lingering rotation in this general area, portions of western Greenbrier and Nicholas counties, neighboring Nicholas counties. The tornado warned storm is, or the tornado warned part of the storm is still in Nicholas, but enough is affecting western Greenbrier that we are staying on air. Again, western Greenbrier County winds right now, we can clock some of these. Bring back my, here we go. Yeah, we're still seeing 70 plus gusts in here. 70 plus gusts over those mountains out there. And again, I was tracking the storm since it moved across Fayette County. You can see the trail it left, this purple and this blue. Those were hail signatures that I was tracking earlier, right along 60 just moved past Route 20. It looks like the worst of this storm now is right on that western Greenbrier County, Nicholas County line. Very, very heavy rain falling in this storm as well. I've seen 4 inches, 8 inches an hour almost when we're talking rainfall rates. That's how hard that rain is falling down. Let's go back to the radar, get an estimate of who's in the path. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're tracking this very nasty storm. It's right on the Greenbrier County, Nicholas County line at the moment. We bring up our watches and warnings. We've still got a tornado warning out for portions of Nicholas County right now. We're going to see if that drops. As soon as that drops, we will go ahead with the newscast, because this will then just be a non-tornadic severe storm, but it's still a severe storm, and we'll be tracking that storm through the newscast in western Greenbrier County. But you can see the tornado warned part of the storm is still just out of the area in that red box, but we've stayed on tracking this storm, thinking they might extend that into western Greenbrier. They haven't yet, which is a good thing. It's telling me that these mountains are helping break up some of that rotation. But again, I've seen very heavy rain. We've still got hail that could fall. And I've seen just really, really intense wind gusts in general in this particular storm. That's why I keep switching on my velocity and zooming in. And where we've got these whites and these really bright colors here, now closing in on Cobb, West Virginia. This is western Greenbrier. These are 70-mile-per-hour gusts or higher, where we've got this box right here. And it continues to push. This line is pushing more to the north, or more to the south and east now, a little bit more than it was before, further into Greenbrier County. So we're continuing to track this very closely. If you're in the path, if you're in this yellow box here, Cordova included, you're going to be in the path of this line, of this entire line, okay? But some of the worst winds are right here around Cobb at this point. 70 plus closing in on Cobb. We've been telling these people, get to your safe places. If you are near Cobb, east of Cobb, southeast of Cobb, get to your safe place now. These are some of the worst winds I've seen in this particular line. Okay, let's double check. It looks like I'm going to check now. All right, the tornado warning has now dropped. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can go into our newscast now. We've still got a severe thunderstorm warning out for northwestern Greenbrier. I'm continuing to track that storm. Very nasty winds, but we'll go ahead and start our regular newscast, and we'll come back and check in the weather in just a tad.